3. Apophis, by J. M. Conradi. Episode 13, No More Flowers. On the mountain reserve, the council often met, but always in daytime because there was a lights-out policy from dusk till dawn. There was great concern about any light being visible to the crazed hordes that were suspected to still prowl the suburbs below like they did when Ian and his family were almost caught. Although all tents and makeshift shelters were all hidden in an indentation on the mountain top, their visual tests from below showed that anything more than a candle or small lantern would cause a glow visible from afar. It was therefore dangerous to move about at night, choosing between either stumbling around in the dark or risking being seen. Not even their security patrols moved at night. They stood guard in hidden shelters with a few precious infrared viewers, including Ian's, which was mostly carried by Biff, who had joined the mountain bike security team. Gunfire had not been heard at night from some time now, but that was probably because there was no opposition left to the hordes who rarely carried guns. Nobody was complacent yet, they only slept due to pure exhaustion of the work it took to keep a few hundred people alive in this post-apocalyptic nightmare. Day-to-day work had already been organized well before Ian and his family had arrived, therefore council meetings were mostly about security, physical security and food security. Water security was for now basically taken care of due to what was called Ian's strategic plan. The mountain reservoir valves were closed off on April 14, 2029 before gravity could run them dry into the now useless pipe systems in the valleys below. On one of the first mornings that he was there, he convinced the meeting before breakfast of 3 key things. 1. They have to begin long-term preparations for war without guns because ammunition is not only scarce, but gunshots attract attention. Apophis had triggered the worst kind of apocalypse. The world economy had apparently collapsed, but most of the world's population initially survived. First would be this phase of violent mass starvation, followed by more organized local wars growing bigger and bigger until it pits nations against each other. His plan had not anticipated the mass madness of crazed hordes roaming without clear purpose, taking provisions as a secondary byproduct of a prime urge to destroy. Psychology and the bad health of untreated radiation burns, wounds, polluted water, and too many decomposing corpses in cities, had combined to create something he did not foresee. The world had been in a health crisis for a decade now, and many people were already sick and hopeless before 2029, but he didn't realize how close to the brink people were. 2. Plans need to be drawn up for large-scale rainwater hoarding in the next raining season. The reservoirs cannot last forever. Ian told them about tests Biff did on rainwater since April 13, but postulated that it would improve when sunlight improves. Currently all water except that coming from the reservoir tastes bitter, confirmed Charlie. 3. It was urgent that the next supply run does not focus on shopping malls but on a long-term opportunity that will expire soon. He showed them an inventory he had of a nursery about 2 miles to the southeast that specialized in man-sized fruit trees. They could bear fruit by next year but are in containers that are about to run dry. A week from now it would probably be a nursery of dead plants. Recycled water from their by now fortnightly 1-minute showers in the abandoned reserve guard's outhouse was ideal for watering the new orchard. They decided to use precious fuel to send a car pulling Ian's trailer, escorted by motorbikes with delivery baskets. Their resident botanist wanted any vegetable seeds left. "We should also get as much ammonium nitrate as possible," said Ian. What he did not tell them, is that he needed it for bombs, not plants. Supply runs were dangerous, but Ian had to go along. He left his gun and his sons behind with Sheila despite their protests, so he was armed with his sword. The men with him were one of the usual supply run teams, heavily armed. There were reports of activity in the suburbs but not close, and this expedition was urgent. The nursery looked abandoned, yet on closer inspection he saw some pots, containing flowers of all things, that were not as dry as he expected. Quietly they cut through the fence and he began pointing out the most valuable saplings to load, basically, anything that looked strong and advanced enough to produce fruit next season, plus one sentimental idea that could be risky, the oldest looking avocado sapling. It might take years to bear, but the risk was worth it. "We can't eat lemons," someone complained, but he explained the many uses of lemons until they gave up trying to argue. While the younger men worked, Ian went searching for ammonium nitrate and found not only that, but a hoard of seeds and, strangely enough, biscuits under the shop counter. Clearly nobody had thought this was a shop that would hold food. Little did people know nurseries are gold mines at the start of an apocalypse. They were almost finished when there was the sound of arguing. A haggard old man had arrived on a bike with a pistol, waving it around and jabbering incomprehensibly. Suddenly the watered flowers and the hoard of food made sense. Standing unseen in the shade behind the man, Ian listened to confirm that the man did not seem to have a family. He called the plants his children in a lucid sentence. When the men said they have hundreds of mouths to feed and will not unload their stash, the old man threatened to shoot and Ian's warriors threatened to shoot back. Shortly before, Ian had also heard screams and laughter in the distance. He knew a gunfight could erupt and that would betray them. He had no choice. The man only sensed the sword behind him when it was too late. Unless you're a giant or an axeman, beheading is only for books of fiction in battles. Spines are too tough. You aim the downstroke of the sword at a main artery. There was blood and a horrid gurgle, but the most nauseating of this killing was the fact that it did not make Ian vomit anymore. His fall to barbarism was complete. While the younger men, who had never killed, stared in shock, Ian, and a man who must have been a soldier or one of the few who had to defend previous supply runs to the death, moved quickly to hide the corpse. As an afterthought, Ian grabbed a ceramic cross from a shelf in the shop and put it on the chest of the corpse. Seeing that, one of the men took the rest of the crosses. They were nice and they might need them. The guardian of this nursery would never need anything again. From the color of the man's nails, Ian concluded that he was already dying. The flesh under the nails were dangerously blue. That would explain the rasping cough and demented babble. It did not justify murder though. None of them argued when, on their way back from the second trip with a trailer full of trees and fertilizer, he had them stop at his own house to pick the last of his fruit. With that and the biscuits, at least this supply run not only produced trees, but one breakfast for the whole community. He knew the community would talk about him behind his back from now on, but he also knew that soon the value of a killer would become crystal clear to them. Civilization was over. Though they did not know it at the time, civilization was dying much more violently elsewhere. Had he known what they would eventually discover about world events, he might not have worked so hard to get Maria set up as their community's electronics and communication expert. His goal was to expand their communication ability until they could contact the outside world or at least eavesdrop on it. 2 sets of two-way radios were not their only treasures. They had parts of radio equipment that he hoped Marius could turn into a shortwave receiver with a large aerial. He used to be a licensed radio amateur, something they thought would never be relevant again. Until now. The first week of May 2029 had arrived, and they had secured the short-term means to begin focusing on the long-term. If only the permanently grayish sky of every day was not so symbolic of their lack of light about the future and the bigger picture. To be continued in episode 14. The hour-long omnibus versions, of 6 episodes per hour, is only available on YouTube. See the link below, it is free. Here is some amateur footage of their farming endeavors, and other details about this series and about this variety channel. Hi there, this is Best Audiobooks channel on Rumble. Today I want to give you a glimpse of the best free audiobook on Rumble, namely Apophis Asteroid Apocalypse. Yes, the Apophis audiobook series is new, exciting, very current given all the asteroid news and discussions about revelations, and it is now on Rumble or YouTube. 2 hours of free audiobooks in this series are already released, and 3 more hours of it is scheduled for release between now and D-Day. What is D-Day? Like all science fiction, there is real-life physics behind this story. On Good Friday the 13th of the year 2029, mankind will experience the closest encounter with a large asteroid ever experienced or calculated. Apophis is supposed to scrape by the Earth and the Moon closer than our own satellites, and government tells you they have it all under control. Enough talk, here is the trailer. Yes, this free audiobook comes with trailers, videos, sound, samples, the whole experience. Just don't have nightmares about the Wormwood apocalypse, which sounds a lot like this, and your hair will stand on end if you do more research about the possible historical significance of Easter in the year 2029, or you could just follow the series on Rumble and YouTube. Short episodes are on both channels, but the hour-long omnibus versions are only on YouTube. Links are given below. Here we go.
Apophis. Revelation 8, verse 10. Then the third angel sounded, and a great star fell from heaven, burning like a torch.
asteroid Apophis